Good day, everyone. Welcome to our QC Manufacturing Lab. I'm Carlo Lidres, your instructor for this exciting journey into the world of quality control, manufacturing pharmacy, and everything in between. Dito sa subject na to, we're not just talking about theories. We'll dive into real-world practices, actual documentation, and hands-on understanding of what it means to work in a pharmaceutical manufacturing environment. You'll explore how a drug moves through its life cycle, from lab discovery to FDA approval, and how manufacturing systems ensure that every tablet, capsule, or sachet you hold in your hand is safe, effective, and consistent. You'll also understand the heart of pharmaceutical quality, the systems, people, processes, and documents that work together to protect patients and ensure compliance. So prepare your lab coats and curious minds. Dahil sa QC Manuf Lab, hindi lang basta aral, kundi preparation for the real-life pharmacy profession. Let's get started. Welcome to our QC Manufacturing Lab class. I'm really glad you're here. Whether you're excited, curious, or even medyo kinakabahan, that's totally okay. This lab is designed to help you learn by doing, through simulation, through actual documentation, and step-by-step processing. All of this is to prepare you not just for the licensure exam, but for real-world work in the pharmaceutical industry. Alright class, for today's session, we're going to explore three important modules, all very relevant to your future work as pharmacists, especially if you're planning to enter the world of manufacturing or quality roles. Module 1. We'll begin with the introduction to the pharmaceutical product life cycle. Here, we'll discuss how a drug is born, from discovery to approval, and finally, to being sold in the market. Next, Module 2 is all about the pharmaceutical quality system. This is the backbone of quality assurance in manufacturing. We'll cover terms like GMP, GDP, GLP, and risk management. And finally, Module 3 we'll take a closer look at manufacturing pharmacy. We'll go through departments, workflows, and real-world terms used inside the plant. So, ready your notes and let's dive in. Before we dive into the technical lessons, here are some important things you need to remember. First, we'll help you understand the journey of a pharmaceutical product, from drug discovery to FDA approval, and all the way to post-marketing monitoring. Hindi lang basta gawa ang gamot. It goes through carefully controlled and scientific processes to make sure it's always safe and effective. Second, you'll be introduced to the basics of a quality management system, which includes concepts like GMP, quality assurance, quality control, documentation, and risk management. Next, we'll explore the QC manufacturing process, what really happens on the production floor, what documents are required, and how do we make sure that each batch meets quality standards. And lastly, the most important house rule in this class is one word: respect. Respect your instructor, respect your classmates, and respect your future profession. Ready na? Let's begin. Product life cycle. Let's begin with a very important concept, the product life cycle. Ano nga ba ito? Simple lang. The product life cycle is the process by which a new drug is discovered, developed, tested, and finally, approved for public use. Kung iisipin mo, lahat ng gamot na iniinom natin ngayon, from paracetamol to the latest COVID antivirals, dumaan muna sa mahaba, masalimuot, pero very scientific na proseso bago siya nakarating sa pharmacy shelves. At yan ang iisa-isahin natin sa module na ito, from lab research to clinical trials hanggang makuha ang go signal ng FDA. Kaya kapag narinig nyo ang salitang product life cycle, isipin niyo agad, from molecule to medicine. Okay, class, here's a more detailed breakdown of the product life cycle of a drug. First, discovery and development. Dito pa lang sa simula, scientists perform lots of experiments, usually sa laboratory pa lang, using test tubes, cells, or animal models. Wala pang humans involved. The goal, to check if the drug candidate is promising in terms of safety and basic effects. Then comes preclinical research. Still no human testing, but deeper evaluation happens here. We assess efficacy, toxicity, and pharmacokinetics. In short, how the drug works, how toxic it might be, and how it behaves inside the body. Next, clinical research. This is where humans finally get involved, and it's divided into multiple phases. Phase 0. Very small doses are given to around 10 people. We check the bioavailability and half-life of the drug. That means how quickly it's absorbed and how long it stays in the body. Minsan, this phase is skipped, especially if preclinical data is strong. Phase 1. This is the safety check. The drug is given to about 20 to 100 healthy volunteers using ascending doses. Goal: to find the maximum safe dose without serious side effects. Success rate around 52%. Phase 2. Now we test for efficacy. Does it work? This time, actual patients receive the drug. Around 100 to 300 people. We also continue monitoring for side effects. Success rate drops here, around 28.9%, since many drugs fail to show results. Phase 3. This is large-scale testing, 300 to 3,000 participants. It's the final test before FDA submission. We evaluate overall effectiveness, safety, and consistency. If the drug performs well, we can finally say, yes, this drug works. Success rate around 57.8%. Then comes FDA review. This is the stage where all data is submitted, reviewed, and analyzed. Regulators decide if the product meets the standards for approval. And finally, Phase 4, also called post-marketing surveillance. The drug is already out in the market, but doctors and regulators still monitor its long-term effects in real-world use. So from test tube to treatment. This is the full journey of a pharmaceutical product. Mahaba, mahal, at risky, pero ginagawa ang lahat ng ito para masigurado ang kaligtasan at bisa ng bawat gamot. Class, after clinical trials and FDA approval, hindi pa doon natatapos ang journey ng isang gamot. In fact, that's just the beginning of its commercial life cycle. Let's go through the 5 major stages, from tech transfer to end of life. Stage 1, research and development. Dito pa lang, gumagawa na ng small-scale lab batches, usually around 1,000 mililitro. The goal, drug discovery, product design, and the creation of a technical dossier for FDA registration. The main theme here, R&D Stage 2, characterization or pilot batch. Once approved, we move to pilot scale, about 10% of the commercial batch size. Dito na pumapasok ang teams from validation, QA/QC, and production. The team starts testing machine capability, conducting stability studies, and setting baseline process parameters para itong rehearsal ng full manufacturing run. Stage 3, process validation. Dito na ginagamit ang full commercial batch size. The goal is to make the process repeatable and to define key parameters like CMA, critical material attribute, CQA, critical quality attribute, CPP, critical process parameter. Once these are established, we can say the process is validated and capable of producing consistent quality. Stage 4, continued process. Validation. Validation doesn't stop after one run. Ongoing monitoring is required. This time, we use statistical tools like PPK and CPK to measure and predict whether the process stays in control. This task falls under QA/QC and process engineering. Stage 5. End of life. Eventually, every product reaches the end of its journey. Maybe it's being phased out. Maybe there's a new version. Or maybe it's just no longer in demand. The QA/QC team handles the documentation and formal discontinuation of production. So always remember, after approval comes production. And every stage from lab to exit must be documented, monitored, and controlled. That's the tech transfer to end-of-life journey in the world of pharmaceuticals. Product quality system and quality management system. To understand QMS better, please watch the video on the next slide.
Over the last 50 years or so, there has been a massive improvement in human health. Life expectancy has increased virtually everywhere. A tremendous increase in the number of drugs, vaccines, and other medicines produced for human use has been a major reason for the advancements. At some point in our lives, we all need medicines of some shape or form. In general, all medicines we have access to have been carefully and rigorously tested to ensure their safety and efficacy. Yet, in addition to ensuring that all medicines are both safe and effective, it is essential to protect human health by ensuring that the products we are taking or administering are actually what they are supposed to be. If this is not done, medicines may kill rather than cure. Ensuring that a drug or vaccine is manufactured properly so that it's safe and reliable and in the correct formulation helps to minimize the risk to our well-being, including some risks that cannot be covered in the testing and registration processes and procedures. We need to be assured that quality and reliability at all stages in the production process is of acceptable and reliable standard. If it is not, our health and maybe our lives are at risk. Good manufacturing practice is the name given to a fundamental component of an overall interdependent process of quality management. A process which must be applied to any pharmaceutical product that is used to improve or safeguard human health. GMP is that part of quality assurance which ensures that the products are consistently produced and controlled to the standards of the quality appropriate to their intended use and as required by the marketing or licensing authorities. The film sequences you are about to see are a combination of GMP compliant and GMP non-compliant situations. The GMP compliant scenes were filmed at the Central Pharmaceutical Company No. 7 in Khao Lam in southwest Vietnam. In the GMP non-compliant scenes, the persons and the company are all fictional, but all the manufacturing procedures did occur in one company or another at different times.
This is Susan, age 7.5. Her dreams and plans reach beyond time and space to worlds clearly visible only to her. If things were equal, odds are she would find her way. But things are not. Susan has nephrosis. Her physician has started her on a modification of hydrocortisone. We will call this fictitious drug steroid 47. Steroid 47 is a life-sustaining drug.
I'm not in. You never heard of me until we get that extra hormone order out of here.
This scene is neither typical nor new to industry-wide experience. a sudden increase in orders has been received. The hormone steroid 47 is in accelerated demand. And there are deadlines.
Well, tell them we'll speed up production all we can.
Tom, I've told you before, all the equipment is committed.
3 p.m. tomorrow. That's the word from the front office, no matter what.
No matter what. Of course, he doesn't mean that literally. Everyone knows that. Well, let's say almost everyone. This is the lab where raw material for steroid 47 is first examined for identification and assay.
How's it going?
Fine. Identification test checks out.
And the assay?
It takes time. We haven't finished that yet.
Well, then forget about it. There won't be any time.
What? No assay?
It's too late. I've got to get this out on the floor.
Look, give me an hour and a half. An hour?
Can't do. Has there ever been a time when this didn't assay correctly?
No.
Well, then let them check it out in the granulation or the finished tablet or both. I've got 10 people to answer to, and they've all got ulcers.
In a GMP-compliant company, the trained employees know that their work is essential in order to produce a high-quality product that will improve and safeguard human life. To give in to time pressure at the cost of product quality is something that is unacceptable and dangerous. All their tests have a specific purpose, and neglect can lead to a loss of human life. They have strict instructions to report any undue pressure to the head lab technician who will deal with the problem. Laboratories or facilities to allow testing of the quality of the various materials used or produced in the manufacturing process should be isolated from the production areas. They should have sufficient space to avoid mix-ups or cross-contamination. There should be adequate and suitable storage space for equipment and samples, reference standards, and records. These standards of high quality can be found throughout the company. For instance, in the warehouse, trained employees make sure that there is sufficient space to allow proper storage of all materials. It is standard GMP practice that all incoming materials be checked and labeled and registered with the company's own labeling system. Special storage areas are also available for storing quarantined or recalled products or restricted dangerous drugs. A well-organized warehouse allows for quick location of goods and minimizes chances for mistakes.
Where's steroid 47 now?
Big mix.
Where?
Over there across from number 4.
Wouldn't you say that's a little close?
Normally, yes, but we're up the creek for space. We didn't count on doing this today.
What's in for?
Diethylstilbestrol. I know. Contamination. Cross-contamination.
Well, what about it?
Well, you're looking at it. The exhaust's up full. You've strained it. I don't know what else we can do unless we cancel the order.
Let's not do that.
To minimize the risk of contamination or serious medical hazard to either workforce or consumer, dedicated self-contained facilities should be used. This is essential where particular pharmaceutical products, such as highly sensitizing agents or live biological agents, are being produced. All personnel prior to and during employment should undergo regular health examinations. The highest level of personal hygiene should be encouraged and practiced by all staff to avoid contamination of the production process. All staff should be instructed to wash their hands and wear clean protective clothing. Used clothing, if to be reused, should be stored in separate closed containers until properly laundered and, if necessary, disinfected or sterilized. Special protective wear such as gloves, earplugs, and face masks must be worn in designated areas. All persons entering the production area, irrespective of their status or position, should be required to follow the strict hygiene regulations. Areas used for preparing raw materials, such as sampling, should be separate from other storage and production facilities and designed to minimize contamination. All materials should be regularly tested and closely monitored. Incoming containers should be checked for integrity of packaging and seal before sampling. All materials should be stored under the conditions stipulated by the manufacturer and in such a fashion as to allow for first in, first out usage. The manufacturing process depends on a team of individuals. The team must work together to achieve their objective. There must be sufficient qualified, trained and experienced personnel at all levels to ensure all tasks for which the manufacturer is responsible to be carried out according to the validated and proven instructions. This is most important during documentation and in-process sampling. Only by following these strict regulations can product quality be guaranteed.
Before each new run, a thorough cleaning of all equipment, including the tablet compressors, is essential, but not with this brush. It just spreads the residue of the previous batch around. Seems unlikely? Not when a worker hasn't been properly trained, or when the supervisor is girl watching. And so a batch of steroid 47 tablets is being stamped out on equipment that still shows the traces of the previous run.
After every run, equipment is labeled as used and may not be used again until it has been cleaned. The layout and design of the equipment must aim to minimize the risk of errors and allow effective cleaning and maintenance to be carried out on a regular basis in order to avoid any adverse effects on the product or its constituents. Washing and cleaning equipment should be selected and employed in such a fashion as to not be a source of contamination. After cleaning, equipment must be inspected by a trained and authorized employee. The equipment and all its components must undergo an intensive examination. Only after this procedure has been carried out may the required paperwork be completed and the equipment released for reuse. Premises should be laid out so as to allow production to take place in areas connected in an orderly and logical sequence, following the sequence of production steps and the requisite level of cleanliness. The orderly and sequential siting of equipment and materials should be done so to minimize the risk of contamination and so as to avoid the risk of confusion between product or components and to avoid the omission or incorrect application of any of the manufacturing steps or control or handling procedures. Throughout the whole procedure process, documentation must be accurately filled out.
To make certain that all these tablets are of the required weight, this man need only take 10 tablets, say each quarter hour, and weigh them. That's all. Then if they show up light or heavy, he can readjust his equipment. But when you're one man handling several machines, and you're out to meet a deadline,
each trained employee assigned to a specific piece of equipment is responsible not only to ensure that the equipment is functioning, but also to assure that the product meets set standards. Here, for instance, the employee has access to regularly check weighing equipment to see if the tablet weight is within allowed tolerance. But this is only one step in product control. In the department in-process control, there are a number of tests carried out at regular intervals throughout the production process. This laboratory, like any other laboratory on the premises, must be isolated from the production areas. The tests carried out here allow for adjustments to equipment and mixtures during the production process, if necessary.
steroid, 47, 2.5 milligrams per tablet. That's what it says on the labels. Or is it steroid 47 in a bottle accidentally labeled Still Best 74? You know and I know. But will the pharmacist know? And what of the patient?
Packaging areas should be laid out as to avoid mix-ups and cross-contamination. Packaging materials should be checked immediately on delivery for quantity, correct identity, and conformity with packaging instructions. They should be stored in a secure area to avoid unauthorized access. Each batch of printed materials should be assigned a distinct identity code or mark. Roll labels are easier to use and safer than cut labels. Final products should be held in quarantine until released for use by the individual responsible.
A batch of steroid 47, under strength and probably contaminated. Some underweight, some overweight tablets, some mislabeled, all potentially dangerous. The byproduct of ineffective and sometimes non-existent controls.
Lot number 3423. We are recalling the entire lot.
Please discontinue dispensing and send your stock back to our warehouse. You will, of course, receive full credit.
It concerns our products.
After a product has been produced and labeled, all the documentation produced throughout the entire process is gathered at one location and checked and sorted. If and only if everything checks out, does this documentation reach the desk of the head of production. It is his responsibility to recheck the paperwork and give final clearance for distribution.
Okay, class. Let's now talk about something that's very critical in the pharma industry, the Quality Management System or QMS. Sa simpleng salita, ang QMS ay parang blueprint ng quality ng isang kumpanya. Lahat ng policies, procedures, and systems na ginagamit para masigurado na ang produkto ay laging safe, effective, and consistent. Nandyan lahat yan sa QMS. Included sa QMS ang mga key concepts like quality management. This refers to the overall process of managing quality. Kasama dito ang planning, control, assurance, at continuous improvement. Ang goal? To make sure na ang bawat gamot ay pumapasa sa standards at expectations. Next, quality assurance or QA. Ito yung proactive side of quality. Hindi lang ito about checking the final product. It's about designing the process in a way na maiiwasan agad ang defects even before they happen. Tandaan, prevention is better than correction. Then we have GMP or CGMP, which stands for Good Manufacturing Practice or Current Good Manufacturing Practice. Ito ang mandatory guidelines na dapat sundin ng manufacturers to make sure that every batch meets the right quality standards. Yung letter C sa CGMP stands for current, meaning dapat updated lagi ang technology and practices used. Without a strong QMS, pharmaceutical production becomes risky and unreliable, kaya halos lahat ng roles sa QA at production umiikot sa implementation ng quality management system to protect both the patient and the product. So again, QMS means quality from day one hanggang dulo. Unahin natin ang GLP or Good Laboratory Practice. This is the quality system that governs everything that happens in the lab, from how tests are planned, performed, and documented, up to how samples and records are archived. The goal of GLP is to ensure data integrity, meaning the results coming out of the lab must be accurate, complete, and traceable. Next is GDP, or Good Documentation Practice. In pharma, documentation is not just paperwork. It's treated as evidence that the process was done correctly and compliantly. GDP ensures that every record, whether handwritten or electronic, is clear, legible, accurate, and contemporaneous. Walang backdating, walang pencil, and every correction must be traceable. Now let's talk about quality control, or QC. QC is the department responsible for testing, from raw materials to packaging, and most importantly, the finished product. Their job is to ensure that what we manufacture actually meets the specifications before we release it to the market. If QA is proactive, QC is confirmatory. And lastly, we have quality risk management, or QRM. QRM is all about identifying potential risks to quality before they even happen. This is where we use tools like FMEA, failure mode and effects analysis, to predict possible issues, control them early, and assess how effective our controls really are. In short, GLP ensures lab accuracy, GDP protects documentation credibility, QC confirms product quality, and QRM makes sure we're always one step ahead of risk. Lahat sila essential para sa isang maayos, compliant at world-class pharmaceutical system. Una, cross-contamination. Ito ang accidental transfer ng material, halimbawa powder o liquid, mula isang product patungo sa iba. This can happen through equipment, environmental exposure, or even sa mismong tao. Kaya sobrang critical ang proper cleaning, sanitation, and gowning procedures. Because in pharma, kahit trace amounts lang ng ibang substance can compromise the safety and identity of a drug. Next, Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP. This is a step-by-step document used for routine tasks. SOPs promote uniformity, compliance, and consistency, regardless of who performs the task. Ang rule, same procedure, same outcome. Work instruction, on the other hand, is like the detailed version of an SOP. If the SOP says, perform visual inspection, the work instruction tells you exactly how to do it, what tools to use, where to look, and how to record the results. Now let's compare MO/PO versus BMR/BPR. MO, or Manufacturing Order, and PO, or Packaging Order, are documents that come from the planning department. They're like the recipe and schedule that trigger the start of production or packaging. Meanwhile, BMR, or Batch Manufacturing Record, and BPR, or Batch Packaging Record, serve as the proof of execution. They document exactly what was done, anong oras, sino ang gumawa, and ano ang result. So remember, MO/PO is the plan, BMR/BPR is the evidence. Together, they show that the product was made properly, completely, and compliantly. First, self-inspection. Think of it as an internal audit. Instead of waiting for the FDA or third-party inspector, the company checks itself, its documents, processes, and records to ensure full CGMP compliance. It's a smart way to catch mistakes before someone else does, and to correct them early. Self-inspections are done regularly, and every finding must be documented, analyzed, and acted on. The goal? Continuous improvement and total accountability. Now, let's talk about the elements of GMP, or Good Manufacturing Practice. Here are just some of the major elements you should remember. Quality system. There must be a quality manual, clear SOPs, and good documentation practices. Personnel. Staff must be qualified, trained, and properly assigned. Premises. This includes clean rooms, storage areas, and QC labs. All must be validated and well organized. Equipment. It must be calibrated, maintained, and sanitized. Documentation. Every activity must be recorded clearly, legibly, and truthfully. Production must strictly follow procedures to avoid cross-contamination and mix-ups. Quality control. includes testing of raw materials, in-process products, and finished products, contracted work. If outsourcing, it must be defined in a formal agreement, like with toll manufacturers, complaints, and recalls. There must be a working system to manage defective products, self-inspection. Just like we discussed earlier, it must be routine, honest, and documented. In short, GMP is not just about what we do, it's about how consistently and correctly we do it. GMP is the minimum standard, not the goal. It's what protects the patient and the company's reputation. Module 3. Manufacturing Pharmacy. Now that we've covered the product life cycle and quality management, it's time to move on to Module 3, Manufacturing Pharmacy. In this module, we'll explore what actually happens on the production floor. Paano nga ba ginagawa ang mga gamot from start to finish? Here are the key points we'll cover. Check stages of manufacturing. From handling raw materials to packaging the finished product. Manufacturing activities, including primary, secondary, and tertiary manufacturing. Types of drug establishments, like manufacturers, importers, traders, and wholesalers. And of course, the different departments in a manufacturing plant, each one playing a role in making sure the product is safe, effective, and compliant. This module will give you an operational lens kung paano nagiging real-world process ang mga natutunan nating concepts like GMP, QA, and documentation. So let's get inside the plant and understand the full flow of pharmaceutical manufacturing. Now let's talk about some of the most common terms you'll hear in the manufacturing area and why they matter. First, batch. A batch is a specific quantity of a drug product that's manufactured in one production cycle, using the same materials, under the same conditions. Isang halo, isang proseso, isang production run. The goal, consistency, so that every tablet or capsule in that batch meets the same quality standard. Next is lot. This is sometimes used interchangeably with batch, but technically, a lot can refer to a portion of a batch or a grouping used for tracking and distribution. In packaging and labeling, you'll often see the term lot number. Then we have batch number, control number, or lot number. These are unique identifiers assigned to every batch or lot. They are used for traceability documentation, and most importantly, for recalls or investigations, so we can quickly identify where the affected product came from. And finally, we have the master formula. This is the official document that contains the complete manufacturing instructions, including ingredients, equipment, process, steps, in-process checks, expected yields. Every batch must follow the approved master formula. No shortcuts, no improvisations. Whatever's in the master formula, that's what must be followed, because that version has been validated, approved, and documented for safety, quality, and compliance. So remember, checkmark A batch is a production unit. A lot is a tracking group. The number gives it identity. The master formula gives direction. First, MBR or BMR. That stands for Batch Manufacturing Record. This is the actual document used during production to record everything done for a specific batch. It includes details of raw materials, equipment used, step-by-step processing, in-process checks, signatures of personnel involved, and the final yield. The MBR is proof that the batch was made exactly as instructed in the master formula. It's also a key part of your regulatory compliance. Next, SOP or Standard Operating Procedure. Yes, we mentioned this earlier. But here's what you need to remember. An SOP is a controlled document that provides clear step-by-step instructions for routine activities, like cleaning, sampling, weighing. It must be followed exactly, and if there's any change, it has to go through formal revision and approval. Now let's talk about the MO, or manufacturing order. This comes from the production planning team, and it authorizes the start of manufacturing for a specific product and quantity. The MO usually includes the assigned batch number, target yield production schedule, and linked documents like the BMR and Bill of Materials. Think of the MO as the green light to begin production. And lastly, we have the term overage. Overage is the extra amount of raw material added during manufacturing to compensate for expected losses. For example, powder sticking to equipment, evaporation handling loss. But take note, overage is not guesswork. It must be justified, calculated, and formally approved to ensure dosage accuracy and regulatory compliance. So to sum up, checkmark MBR equals execution. Record, checkmark SOP equals process. Guide, checkmark MO equals production. Trigger, checkmark. Overage equals approved allowance for loss. Each of these plays a role in keeping pharmaceutical manufacturing controlled, documented, and compliant. First, quarantine. In pharma, quarantine doesn't mean illness. It means controlled segregation. Any material, whether it's raw material packaging, material, or a finished product, is placed under quarantine status if it hasn't been tested yet, QC results are pending, or there's an open deviation or issue. While under quarantine, the material cannot be used, cannot be processed, and definitely cannot be shipped. It's not yet considered GMP compliant. It stays on hold until quality officially releases or rejects it. Think of quarantine like a red light. Stop. Wait for clearance. Next, validation. Validation is the process of proving that something consistently does what it's supposed to do. In the pharma world, almost everything is validated. Processes, equipment, cleaning methods, analytical procedures, even software systems. The idea is simple. Don't just say it works. Prove it works. And prove that it works every time. Without validation, a company can't claim that its systems reliably produce safe and effective drugs. And the FDA, they won't allow production without documented proof. So, to summarize, checkmark quarantine means right arrow. Hold the material until it's cleared by quality. Validation means provide documented evidence that your system works consistently. Two simple terms, but absolutely critical for product quality, patient safety, and regulatory approval. That's all. Thank you, and see you in the next class.